Hey, it's David from Tool School, and today we're going to talk about death wobble. Also maybe introduce a new series called the Good, Bad, and Ugly. So we're going to start with good because good is positive. In addition to promising myself to eat more fruit and vegetables, I also decided to be more positive about life. So here we go. Good. Good is Jason and the folks over at Motorworx. That's Motorworx with an X at the end. They're a off-road and super cool shop over in Dallas, and they help me with the death wobble problem. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's see, what's bad? No, ugly. Death wobble is a phenomenon where the front tires of your vehicle oscillate uncontrollably until you slow the vehicle. So what happens is you usually hit something like a pothole, a big pothole, a bridge expansion joint. You hit it and it sets up and the wheels go back and forth, and you can imagine the steering wheel does that. So it could be from mild to wild. In this case, the Super Duty behind me is the Tool School shop truck. It's a 2020 Ford F-250 Super Duty with about 30,000 miles. Get a set of potholes out on the interstate and experience death wobble. A couple of big trucks were behind me, and luckily it was me and not someone in my family who this happened to, because I knew what was going on and was able to correct it without any losing any body parts. Only way you could stop the oscillation of the front wheels is by slowing the vehicle. There's no other way to do it. So I had to get out of the fast lane, get over in the breakdown lane, slowing down at the same time, and there was a couple of big rigs behind me that weren't real happy. So why the death wobble? That's the bad, and the bad is Ford. Ford is bad because Ford, in my opinion, my personal, non-official, non-engineering opinion, is that this relatively new truck with very light duty miles on it had suspension parts that were worn out. And in my belief, Ford did it to cut costs, and they're bad. Ford, bad. You should be ashamed of yourself. So I got asked why I didn't take the truck back to Ford and have them fix these worn out parts under warranty. Ford would have put the same crappy parts on there, and in this case I decided that was not going to happen, so I went out and got replacement parts at the local auto parts store, and those were components from Moog. That's M-O-O-G, and they still make top-notch parts. I know a lot of old-time great companies have been bought out, and when they get bought out, their parts start to cheapen because that's what you do, I guess. But Moog still makes high-quality parts. Let me show you what's going on down here in the suspension. This pitman arm is connected to the steering box right here, and that gets direct input from the cab through a shaft to the steering wheel. And so as that movement travels, it goes into this drag link end here, and that is connected over here. I didn't replace this because they were out of it and I just didn't have time, but this joint is tight, although I will keep an eye on it and we'll probably just replace it for good measure. But as the steering input goes down here, it goes through this steering stabilizer, which, by the way, is a Band-Aid. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but don't let anyone tell you that death wobble can be fixed from the addition of a steering stabilizer. Whether you put 1 or 12 on it, it doesn't fix the problem. So as the steering input goes down here, it goes into this other drag link end, and that goes into the steering passenger side steering knuckle. And if you can see it, same piece of metal that this tie rod end goes into. And that was the joint that was bad. It was so sloppy you could feel and hear it when you move the steering wheel. And as you go across, this is the tie rod, and that is the driver's tie rod end, and that goes into the steering knuckle over there. And so that makes the steering happen. So that makes the wheels go. And that's why if something happens to one wheel, it happens to the other, because they're connected by this gigantic bar over here. I did want to give an acknowledgement to Carly Suspension. There are a lot of aftermarket Carly parts on this truck. If you want to know more, I'll be happy to answer questions. So again, to the good, the parts that Motorworx installed for me and realigned my truck were the tie rod end over on the passenger side, that drag link end, and this tie rod end over here, and it made a world of difference. Okay, well, thank you for your patience in that deep dive into suspension theater. I just want to, again, reiterate the good being the folks at Motorworx, Jason and his crew, also Moog Auto Parts. I hit the same series of potholes that caused the initial death wobble. Nothing, it's tight as a drum. So it's David from Tool Skool. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Take care.